and welcome to my very first video. I am an artist, a maker, and a mom, and I wanted to make artist diaries and project logs about some of the different things that I'm working on all the time, all of the different creative goodies that I try to fit into different days, but I do try to fill my cup and kind of feed my mind and soul with creative things as best as I can sort of throughout the week. So I wanted to log some of that and most specifically track a project that I'm working on this year. I'm trying to do 12 in 12, so my little art challenge for myself, trying to get 12 finished paintings done in the year. So right now we're working on the first painting. This first video is the end of December and the month of January. So I wanted to cover how I progressed, the things that I got done in this month. So stick to the end to see if I get to the end of my first painting in this first month. Explain a little bit more of my expat story, because I was an au pair and then a student, and now I work in France and have kind of built a whole life here. My French degrees are in sociology, so I'm a sociologist and a social data scientist, and that's why I decided to call this Sociolostitch, was combining the social sciences brain with the crafty things that I like to do, all of the art and creative things that I work on. And I am vegan, so I went vegan in the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. So that's an important part of the fiber arts that I do, is I do work with almost exclusively plant fibers and sometimes obviously synthetic fibers. This is my caveat in the vegan world, is I will use different animal fibers, not anything that's like leather or like skin, but what I will use is secondhand animal fibers if I do come across it. So sometimes I have thrifted either yarn or different garments that are in animal fibers, because I do think that they're really amazing naturally, and I just wish that we were nicer about the ways that we acquired those fibers. So that's my line in the sand in terms of vegan and vegan knitting. And actually, one more thing is I'm sick, so that's why I sound like this. I'm drinking a nice hot cup of tea. I hope you've got something cozy as well to keep you company while you're maybe putting this on in the background, maybe actually watching it. But just while you follow along, maybe you're also enjoying a nice hot cup of something in the midst of winter. But yes, I'm sipping on tea throughout this because I have a baby who brings germs home from the nursery basically every other week. So I've been so sick for the past several months as we transitioned into nursery life, and I feel like it's not going to stop until maybe they leave for college. We'll see. If you are a fellow maker, a fellow creative person, I would love to know in the comments. That would be so cool to see what you are working on. If you are another fiber artist, or if you're painting, or you're baking, or whatever you're doing, I'd love to know in the comments what you're working on. This video starts in the end of December, so just before the winter solstice, when I was finishing up my prismatic sweater. So that was my New Year's cast on at the beginning of 2025, and I really wanted to just push forward and prioritize a project for myself instead of lots and lots and lots of baby makes that I had done throughout the year. So I was really happy when I did end up finishing it just in time for the winter solstice, and I was able to wear it out and enjoy it for all of the winter festivities. And then we switch into some winter baking and a fun little excursion to a place not too far here, still in the north of France, that we went to over part of the Christmas break. So it was just really beautiful, and I got a little more knitting done. I started and finished a pair of socks, not on that little trip, but I started them on that trip and I finished them before the end of the year. So it was a final cast off, final project, final FO, finished object of 2025 was this cute little pair of baby socks. So as I said, 2025, I only made that one big garment for myself, and then the other things that I made were just baby knits and some toys and fun different little things for our little one. But then 2026 started off with a bang. I got two New Year's Eve cast-ons, and one of those was a hat for myself and the other one was a cardigan for our little one. And the hat is already finished. The cardigan, as you will see, I actually had to rip back on both of the projects, but that's fine. That's important to just know where you're at, rip back while you're ahead, and then make something that you actually really like. So the cardigan, I had started with one color and then realized that I was running out of the second color, or I was running out of that color, so I added in a second color, so I ripped back so that I would be able to stripe it in the body. Now I have also run out of the stripe color while I have one sleeve left to knit, so I ordered more yarn, and I ordered the wrong yarn. That's fine. It's okay, but that means that I have to maybe rip back a different project that I did, because that's where the second color came from. It was leftovers from another project that I don't really wear that often. So the one baby cardigan that seemed like it was a great way to get one skein out of my stash, out of my yarn collection, has since turned into a much bigger project, as do seemingly all baby projects. So I do need to just reassess with that. And so after finishing the hat, I moved on to another super easy project. So it's I have all of the yarn for it. It's the Anchor summer shirt. That's what I'm working on next, and that's going to be more in the February video. But so my knitting, it does what it needs to do. It is really fun to do, especially when I'm commuting to and from work. So we take a bus that goes straight from where we are to where I work, and it's perfect. It's a great time to be able to get some knitting done when you're sitting somewhere for 40 minutes. It's the perfect way for me to get plenty of knitting in during a week. So if we have a ride there and back, at least 3 days a week is basically the majority of my knitting comes from my commute. So the commute is really helpful, and sometimes in the evenings is also a good time to do a little bit of knitting or maybe crocheting or other crafts. But the other big creative thing in my life is I love to paint. So I've been working a lot on my illustration, on my painting skills the last few years, and I'm really trying to move into kind of a strong still life painting style. So I have done, like I said, lots of work and put lots of time into this over the last few years. So sometimes working with oil pastels, sometimes working with gouache and acrylic, but what I've really loved is oil painting. Oil painting has been really nice to kind of, I feel like it's the unsung hero of my painting practice as I've become a mom, because of how long you can leave paints out and how you can be in the middle of painting something, and maybe if the baby wakes up or if they need something, then I can put my paint down. I can go spend 5 minutes, or maybe I don't come back to my painting until nighttime when they're back in bed, and I can just pick up where I left off. And so I'm really glad to have gotten into it before having our little one, because I think that would have been kind of overwhelming to get into with a new baby. But I was so thankful that I just happened to figure out how to do like a solvent-free, kind of low-toxic oil painting in my space. Obviously still trying to keep things ventilated and keep things out of their reach, but to have this way that I can really spend a lot of time painting and a lot of time on each painting because of the longevity of oil paints. I love nature, and that's the big thing that sings to me in paintings that I see from others is just, I love a still life. I love like a Dutch, whatever it is, like 17th century or 18th century still life is like chef's kiss. I love to see it in a museum. I love to look at pictures of it in art books. I love pictures that just celebrate art just kind of like sitting still, and it doesn't have to be, I also love like a majestic scene, of course. Like I think that like beautiful landscape paintings are also incredible, but just the thing that tickles my fancy, that makes me really like so inspired to paint are especially these still lifes. And so that's what I'm trying to move towards, is just getting better and better at painting my own still lifes. So what I'm working on for my first painting, I have come to discover is very ambitious, because I was painting kind of smaller little croaky, like little sketch sized paintings of different fruits and different things that maybe would eventually be put into a still life. But I decided for January to just set up a whole still life shoot and then try to paint that, and it's taken me longer than I was I don't know, I'm not even expecting, because if I think about it, this is what I would expect, was it would take me several weekends to be able to paint. But that's fine. I guess I just, like, eyes are bigger than my paintbrush or whatever, but it's taking longer, in part also because my brother came and stayed with us for a little over a week in January as well. So there was a whole week that was spent having lots of fun family time. So I share a little bit of that, of us going into Lille and finding delicious vegan coffee and vegan cakes and treats, but also going over to Brussels and having a fun excursion over there, and just having a lot of special family time. So that was really fun, but it also obviously meant that was several days less of painting. And I also decided that because this was kind of a bigger, more ambitious painting that I wanted to do, I ended up doing several studies of the picture that I decided on painting. So I did several studies to be sure that I kind of understood the general blocking in, and just to really, really practice and try to set myself up for success. But I certainly think that next time I will not have as many components in the painting to try to make it a little easier and a little more manageable for my schedule right now, if I am trying to achieve my 12 and 12. So I do think I'm gonna maybe not be quite as ambitious for the next couple of months and try to catch up. But also I think I could have spent less time on these studies. I think because they are studies, they're supposed to be kind of like these quick working through the piece and working through the different elements of it. I mean, in part, if there are fewer things to study, that will be helpful, but also just maybe not being so precious about the studies. I think I did want to get a lot out of them, and so I spent a lot of time on them. And I think for the next painting, I would try to kind of whip through, maybe do all of my studies in one go and just like get them not out of the way, but get as much as I can out of them without it eating into the sort of final painting time. So I was really, really happy to have done these studies, because it did help change the way that I was thinking about several of the different elements, and kind of really understanding the spacing of everything. That was really, really helpful. And I mean, especially this last piece, looking at the values as well, was kind of recognizing that, okay, this is actually brighter than I thought it was, this is darker than I thought it was, and getting everything really clear in my mind before attacking that final paint. And once I did get to painting, I was faced with what I had completely forgotten, which was that when I've painted persimmons before, and realized that it was actually really hard to mix the right orangey, reddish orange color, because I don't have a true red. I realized because the paints that I got, it's a secondhand set of oil paints. I try to source as much as I can secondhand for any crafting things, basically. If it's painting, if it's knitting, if it's sewing, I try to get as many things secondhand as possible, because there's just so much stuff out there already. So that's a thing that's really important to me, is to try to use what already exists and not create too much of a demand for new stuff. It's just working with all of the stuff that's already out there. But so this paint set that I have of oil paints, it's a lovely set, but I realized when I was doing persimmons a couple months ago that I don't actually have a true red, and so it's like a light something red, and so there's a little bit of white already in the pigment, and that just immediately muddies up kind of as soon as you mix it in with other colors to try to make an orange. It goes muddy and kind of chalky pretty quickly. So I had forgotten that, and I started this painting, was like, why am I having such a hard time? And then it dawned on me again that I was using this light reddish paint, and that I was just gonna have to face the same hurdle. And so this time, mixing all of the kind of nuanced colors for 3 persimmons made for a pretty long process, and I spent a lot of time trying to get those colors to be as close to something that I was happy with as possible. So that was another thing that really took a lot of time, and I have since ordered a new truer red, again, secondhand. So there's a website called Le Bon Coin, and that's kind of like a French Craigslist, but that you can actually trust, and it's a really good online marketplace with a great payment system built into it, and I love to use that for basically anything I need, like actually crafting or anything else in my life. When I was looking for maternity clothes, I went shopping on Le Bon Coin, so I really appreciate that resource, and that's what I use to once again find the next tube of red paint that's like a truer red instead of this like whitish red. So I am mostly painting on Thursdays and Fridays when I'm teleworking. I take kind of like a baby nap time, coffee break time for me. I try to get as much work as I can done early in the day so that I can give myself that little bit of time during our baby's nap time to spend some time kind of uninterrupted and painting. And then Saturdays and Sundays, obviously that's my time, so I like to use nap time as well as some really long stretches for painting. So I'm able to get a lot of knitting done during the days that I'm working in person, so between the commute and my lunch break, like you can see here, I'm able to get plenty of knitting time in, and then on those teleworking days and the weekends, I fit in a few hours at least of painting. The other fiber art kind of creative thing that is like one of the main things that I'm passionate about is sewing. And so I have been sewing. Honestly, I think I was sewing more significantly before I was even knitting significantly, but knitting kind of took over since it is so portable and so easy to pick up and put. I bought a secondhand sewing machine in like early COVID days between lockdowns. A secondhand Singer Melody, is it 20 or 40? But it's a Singer Melody machine, and that one's electric. And then just a couple years ago, I also got a treadle sewing machine that is adorable, and I really love that one too. And I haven't sewn as much on it lately, but it's like in great condition, and it's really fun to kind of treadle along and do different projects. That one can only do a straight stitch, or you can bump the feed dogs down, and you can use it to do kind of like freehand embroidery. So I haven't experimented as much as I'd like to with that, but it's just another cool machine. So I have those two now that I can use for basically any project. I don't have an overlocker, and I consider maybe looking for one secondhand, but right now the two that I have are working absolutely great for me, and I really like both machines. I do really need to get my electric one serviced because it's tired. It's doing its best, but I think there are a few things that really need to get fixed since I got it in 2021, and it hasn't been cleaned or serviced, and it's been through a lot. So I do need to get that one serviced. Hopefully, hold me accountable, people. Please make sure that I get this machine serviced, especially because I have that big sewing project coming up that again talk more about in the February video probably. I also do some crochet, and so maybe not as much as knitting, but I do know how to crochet, and I do like to use it for some different projects. And I have Tunisian crochet hooks, and I have only done one project a few years ago before I even had these hooks, and I'd love to, that's another goal for the year, is to do something like one of the TL Yarn Crafts Tunisian crochet projects. So I have several possible projects, and I just need to decide which one it's going to be this year. That's actually included on a whole 2026 like bingo card creative goals video that I have on YouTube. So I'll maybe put that somewhere here on the screen now, but that you can see the whole video of it on I said on YouTube, I mean on my Instagram. So on my Instagram, which is the same handle as the Sociolostitch, is where I went into kind of all of the creative goals and some other things that I'm hoping to do this year. And so maybe, not maybe, that will definitely be featured here are I'm hoping to do some beading. And if I don't do the beading, I've got to get rid of the beads that I have been hoarding. Also, since something I got between lockdowns. But I'd love to do some mending. I've got a upcycling jeans project in mind, so I'd love to do some baby jeans and then with the scraps to do some earrings that hopefully combine the beading. So hopefully crossing off a few fun projects with those couple of makes. And the last, like, kind of big goal, in addition to like a few patterns that I want to do, but all of that is in that other video, is I really want to get my fabric logged on Threadloop, the Threadloop app, and my yarn collection logged on Ravelry, just so that I know exactly what I'm working with and I can be better about using up all these things that I already have. I don't plan on doing any like hauls or like acquisition sections in these videos because that doesn't really align with my vibe. I think I would just show what I'm working with when I'm working with it and not really like this is what I bought lately. That just doesn't, I mean, first of all, I try to not buy much, so that wouldn't be like a very substantial section, but also I just don't think that that's helpful into like lowering all of our consumption. So that's not something that will be included here. Also, you maybe have noticed that I'm not showing my face, so that is also important to me. I think AI and the internet are crazy, and I don't feel like putting that much video footage of my own face online. So that's why it's going to be like my hands, sometimes some of my body, showing you like the different things that I'm working on and creating. But that's kind of it. That's all we're seeing is what I'm working on, and not giving the internet so much footage of my face and my identifiable identity. I would love to know what you think about that, and maybe like any of these different creative things that I talked about and what your goals are for yourself creatively in 2026, if you feel like sharing that down below. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. And to close things out, I just want to have a little bit of, maybe it's going to be a little woo, but just a little mindfulness, a little time to kind of slow down and maybe enjoy what you've been working on for the last 20 or so minutes, to maybe check in with your body, with your posture, and how you're feeling. Maybe check in with your breath. If you have been crafting this whole time, maybe put your tools down, stretch your hands a little bit, relax your shoulders. So yeah, we're gonna close out to zoom into some really relaxing music. And again, thank you so much, and I hope to see you here again soon.